Natosi video. What's going on here? What got broadcasted?
This is sadly the most horrifying IRL stream ever broadcasted because during the
Hey,
stream,
Wawa. Horrors and influencer. I guess those other two. What about deranged fans while live streaming to 6K viewers?
a fan struck the streamer 55
Oh,
times the blade
yeah, I
on a
remember
Tokyo street in
this.
front of thousands of live viewers, then picked
Ding
up the
dong,
stream
ding
and
dong.
continued streaming until the police showed up. It's hard to even put it in words of how horrific all of this was. And a little over a year later, we finally know why this happened and how long he's going to prison for it.
Oh.
And quick warning, this is definitely a heavier video than usual, but I wanted to talk about it because I'm just surprised at how little coverage there actually was from this incident. And I'm also kind of shocked at what the punishment ended up being for the man who did all this. But it's just terrifying to think that a parasocial relationship between an influencer and their public can spiral so far out of control.
See, this is the reason why I will never feed into the parasocial thing. This is one of the reasons why, okay? I don't want to end up next to some deranged fan with a knife next to my throat, okay? All right? Or getting stabbed in the stomach, okay? Or getting blasted in the face, okay? No, thank you. We don't do parasocial stuff here. We're here to hang out and have fun, okay?
They end up doing something as extreme as this. But this case happened in 2025, and at the time, all we had was the immediate aftermath, an arrest, a horrifying motive, and a string of eerie similar incidents happening to other streamers within the same few weeks. But now, more than a year later, the trial is over, a sentence has been handed down, and honestly, some of the stuff that came out during the actual court proceedings is even more disturbing than what we knew back then. So this nightmare starts in March 11th of 2025 at around 9:50 in the morning. Eri Sato was walking through the Takodanababa area of Tokyo's Shinjuku ward, live streaming on a Japanese platform called Who Watch. She'd been working on a project where she was walking along the Yamanote line, a train loop that circles around central Tokyo, and it's extremely popular with both tourists and locals. And here she was streaming the entire route live for audience. But what was supposed to just be another regular IRL stream turned into a complete nightmare within seconds when Sato suddenly stepped out of frame and started screaming. Then the guy picked up the stream phone and started looking into the camera. According to the reporting at the time, the stream captured Sato lying on the ground, visibly injured, with the attacker standing over her, asking if she was still alive before kicking her. And more than 6,000 people were watching all of this unfold live, completely unable to do anything but witness it all. And that all happened at 9:50 in the morning, and around 10 minutes later, police
Holy shit, out in broad daylight? Literally? You just did this out in the middle of the morning in general? That's crazy to do something like that.
A call at 10 in the morning, and they arrived shortly later. And when they did so, they found Sato with wounds in her head, neck, and abdomen. She was then rushed to the hospital but didn't make it and passed away less than 2 hours later, while the man responsible, Kenichi Takano, he was arrested right there at the scene. However, the thing is, as the story started circulating and reports came out, we later discovered that this wasn't some random attacker who just happened to cross paths with Sato that morning. You see, Takano had been watching her streams for years, and he'd even become a regular customer at the hostess bar where she worked, going back to around 2022. And over that time, he says he sent her money repeatedly, totaling somewhere around 2.5 million yen, which comes out to roughly $16,000. So he was a massive donor. And donations, they're fairly normal in the streaming world. But this much money is definitely something to raise your eyebrows at. But again, like if you look at any of the top streamers, especially the women, you can often find individual donors who have donated this much or way more. But for some reason...
And the funny thing on top of that too, we've also heard there was one incident or so where there was a Twitch streamer where she got her car on fire or something related to that. It was on camera, but she wasn't home or anything like that, but her mom was home. And at least they caught it and they put out the fire. But yeah, they did caught a guy or so who has parasocial intendants. And basically, you know, I think they arrested the guy in general and charged him or so. But there has been many instances or so of doing these weird parasocial things. Yeah, I get it. You know, they give out the most money though. But for me personally, I wouldn't take advantage of somebody like that, because that just means that's somebody who is like mentally ill. And like it's like the level of yandere, but like a male equivalent of a female version of it, you know? well, they'll literally straight up like, you know, put your life on danger when it comes to this, you know. I personally object this kind of behavior. That's why I always put my foot down almost immediately. Anyone who tries to do weird parasocial shit in here, I immediately shut it down because I don't want that here. I don't. That's just not my cup of tea. So
he was framing it as a loan for her living expenses. And again, what makes this case especially so awful is obviously she's not here. So we don't have her side of the story. So for all we know,
yeah.
she was thinking that he was donating to her in the start. But when police first questioned him, Takano told them that he'd raised the money through his own savings and by taking out consumer loans, and that he made up his mind to attack Sato because she wouldn't pay him back. So my question then is, okay, was he donating to her and then suddenly changed his mind and wanted the money back, or is this some
Like, don't get me wrong, I like yandere girls to you know, to some degree or so, but I only like it in anime, not in real life. There's a difference between fiction and nonfiction, okay? All right? That's why there's a huge difference. I like it in the show. I don't like it in real life. I don't want a knife near my throat, okay? Or some guy ready to stab me in general because I didn't give him enough love or so. No, thank you. Anime doesn't translate well to real life. No, it has not, and it will never will, okay? All right? Because if you're trying to be a tsundere in IRL, you're just being a jackass, okay? All right? You're just being a bitch, okay? That's what it is, okay? All right? That's all it really is, okay? If it was alone, there would be a paper trail, at least of some email or text. But I can fix her. Yo, what are you talking about? She's dead.
sort of arranged deal between the two of them? But at the same time, he also claimed that he didn't mean to take her life, which is also pretty hard to
didn't
believe
mean to
because,
take her
he
life?
tracked her public location, traveled
That's fucking wild for you to say that, but okay. I didn't mean to. My hand just slipped. Oopsie daisies. Oh no. The knife is in your stomach. My bad. Tee hee 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 hee. Okay. All right. Sure. I didn't mean to. I just tripped and fell.
to meet her and then struck her 55 times with a blade. This is
Jesus fucking
absolutely premeditated.
55?
Everything about this case is just so gruesome. And that's also just
My
the other
God,
detail that
dude.
made this so eerie and unsettling. Because
Yo, mama
this
can fix
wasn't
them.
random. Takano had reportedly seen Sato announce her Yamanote line live stream in advance, and he used that announcement to figure out exactly where she would be. So in other words, the same platform that was supposed to connect her with an audience is what led him to find and ambush her. Also, the week this happened to Sato, you had also crazy other events that happened to other female IRL streamers. Because just days earlier, streamers Valkyrie, Senna, and Emeru, they were confronted by an aggressive man at Santa Monica Pier who demanded their numbers, followed them around, and got physically threatening.
Yeah, this is something that these are one of the reasons why I became a VTuber, is because I don't want to show my face and I do not want to be stalked by the most randomest person on the internet, okay? That is one of the things in general. Do not ask me for a face reveal. I will not do a face reveal. I am going to stick to my VTuber persona until the end of time, okay? All right?
After he was rejected.
Go ahead. Right now. You right now. You right now.
Security, please. Security.
And then the same night, Twitch and Kick streamers Amaranth's home was broken into by masked robbers demanding crypto. And she was also whipped with a weapon before her husband managed to scare the intruders off with his own firearm. So this was just a very crazy week on the internet. And other creators spoke up around the same time as well, because you had Japanese streamer Miyako Lowell saying that she had to stop and go to the police multiple times because people wouldn't stop following her during her IRL streams. And that's why she had to stop her IRL streams altogether. So this is a horrific, sad.
Yeah. If you're going to do IRL streaming, you need to have a bodyguard or a security with you, to be honest. I mean, that would not want to deal with these types of people, but some people will do some crazy things. Yeah, no, there are people who really take it off to the far edge, to be honest.
Reality to a very popular
carry a
job. But
firearm
going
in
back
other
to Takano's
countries.
trial, it took place under Japan's lay judge system, which basically means regular citizens sit alongside of professional judges to help decide the verdict and sentence serious criminal cases. So during this trial, prosecutors laid out just how brutal the attack actually was. Sato was attacked at least 55 times across her face,
Jesus.
neck, and chest, and prosecutors are
Poor girl, to be honest. I feel very sorry for her, to be honest, that she lost her life or so this way. I, no one should be going out that way, to be frankly honest. Yeah, I thought this is the exact reason why VTubers exist. I considered fakes when someone face reveals, because what is the purpose of covering up at first unless you're uncomfortable at first when streaming your face? The ones who reveal their face in general, well, there's multiple reasons for what, right? Some of them are on it for the bandwagon, for the popularity. Some of them are showing them because, you know, well, OnlyFans in general. Number three, maybe they want to do other content besides doing VTuber related stuff, right? Like some of them just want to do like actual like IRL content stuff, right? Which makes sense, right? There's, like I said, there's multiple things in general. But for me specifically, right, where I stand on, I wouldn't do a face reveal. Like I do eventually want to do a cosplay photo shoot, but my face is still going to be blurred out and it's still going to be hidden. You'll just only see the costume itself. That's basically it. Like I'll still do photo shoots. Like I still want to do vlogs, but I'm not going to show my face. That's about it. Like I'm just going to take scenery pictures and do vlogging for like, you know, like food and like scenery and all this other stuff, but not like showing pictures of myself like on the, you know, on the daily basis. But I will do photo shoot cosplays, but I'll make sure whoever the editor is that I work with for the photos to make sure that the face is completely blurred and gone out of existence, you know. I will do anything to get rid of the face in general, so I don't get doxxed or whatever, or get looked up whatsoever, you know. So I'm like, the power of ADHD of some individuals is so massive, it scares me sometimes, you know. It's why I don't understand why people do face reveals as VTubers. Once your face is out there, you're basically might as well be a 3D streamer. You mean a flesh tuber, you mean? Some of them just do it for because of the call outs, popularity, or they think like every single VTuber is a guy in general, or they think like every VTuber is like, it's a joke. It's not really that serious at the end of the day. I personally just find it as a joke. I don't really care personally if they think I'm some 50-year-old fat guy or so living in their mom's basement. That's fine. You can think that way if you want to. I have no problem whatsoever. I'm just kind of like, don't really care. I've heard it already thousands of times. I'm just kind of like, um and then they say like we're ugly, we're all ugly in general. It's just kind of like we're all average looking, okay? Everyone is average looking, okay? Yes, there's a small percentage that people look very beautiful, but it's a small percentage, okay? All right? It's like everyone is just average, okay? Wait, Ko isn't a 50-year-old guy? Unfollow? No, I'm a 40-year-old guy from Ghana. Get your facts straight, okay? All right? I'm not 50, I'm 40. um but yeah, that's kind of like basically it. I don't know, it's just some VTubers like to show their faces. I personally don't know why, what's their reason specifically, but you know, everyone specifically will basically will just have different things, you know. But Ko, you're a 50-year-old man from Uganda? No, I'm a 40-year-old man from Ghana, so get it correctly, stupid.
argued that Takano kept going after she was begging him to stop. And the whole
I'm a cute
attack
femboy
reportedly
from
lasted
Ghana,
for around a
okay?
minute. The judge
Alright.
later described what Takano did after the attack, including using Santo's phone while it was still live, and kicking her was a continued violation of her dignity, separate from taking her life. And the
That's
prosecutors
sad.
asked for a 20-year sentence, which sounds incredibly low to me.
It is.
Especially for such a gruesome and deliberate attack. But Takano's defense, on the other hand, they asked for 9 years. So they argued that Takano had tried to get his money back through an actual civil lawsuit first. And he apparently won it technically, since a court did order Sato to repay him. But she told him that she didn't have the money. According to the defense, that failed attempt to recover the debt through legal means left him financially and emotionally spiraling to the point where he was contemplating taking his own life.
But the guy donated to the girl. It's not like he had a one-on-one conversation with the girl, at least, not to my knowledge anyways, and just donated it to her, question mark.
Again, we don't have her side of the story. I am horrified that this is one of those moments where he donated a bunch of money to her. She assumed it was a donation, so she might have spent that money, and then suddenly he wanted the money back. I don't know if this is the case here, but I've absolutely heard of that a bunch of times. I also don't know how Japan's legal system looks at streamer donations, so that could also be why he won the court case. But his lawyers also argued that Takano is on the autism spectrum, and this contributed to the impaired impulse control.
That shouldn't be an I'm gonna be honest with you. I am so sick and tired of the autism spectrum where he has impaired impulse control. No, I don't believe this, to be frankly honest. I am tired of this excuse personally, that they're using the autism spectrum for like impulse control and everything like that, for their behavior of taking a girl's life 50 times that the girl got stabbed across her body. Okay, that is not an impulse control. Okay, that is straight up not an impulse control. That is, I call BS on that so hard.
Claiming that he only meant to disfigure Sato's face rather than take her life. I mean,
oh wow, that's fantastic to hear. No, I didn't mean to kill her. I just want to fuck up her face. That's basically it. Okay, sure, whatever you say. Yeah, let me remind you, chat, that's on the autism spectrum. Okay, that's on the autism scale. That's what autism is. Apparently, if you have autism, a certain autism on the spectrum scale, you just want to fuck up people's faces, not kill them. Not kill them. Let me remind you, not kill them. I just want to fuck up their faces. But oopsie daisy, I killed them. Sorry, I'm autistic, you know? I'm tired. I am so tired of this fucking excuse or so of using autism for an excuse of your behavior. No, dude. Hell no, in my personal opinion.
Her life. I mean, in my opinion, that doesn't change anything. Put him beneath the prison regardless.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what, this was a planned, gruesome attack. Yep. But on July 15th, 2026, the Tokyo District Court found Takano guilty and sentenced him to 16 years in prison. That's 4 years short of what the prosecutors asked for, but quite above what the defense pushed for. So presiding judge Sunichi Ido called the attack a cruel crime that caused enormous pain and suffering, and specifically pointed out the fact that Takano had struck Sato in the neck with enough force to demonstrate what the court called a firm intention to take someone's life. As for the autism argument, the judge did acknowledge that Takano's condition may have played some role, but ultimately rejected it as an excuse. And she continued by stating plainly that actions may spiral out of control even without such a condition. Apparently, the court did take into account that Takano genuinely believes Sato had financially wronged him, and that this belief appears to have been the actual motive.
Are we serious here? People actually believed that, like, you know, I found many popular VTubers are and were cosplayers. Same drama, same clique. If you can't control yourself, you need to be in prison or in an asylum because you can't be in society. That's very true, to be honest.
Rather than anything else. But also, I mean, she owed him some money that he seemingly donated to her.
Yeah.
So I don't see how that's a reasonable response for anyone to do. It's very straightforward. If you cannot,
it's almost like someone who donates to somebody. Let's say, for example, one of you guys donate to me, right? And then, like, after, like, I'd say a couple months or to a year, you ask me for the money back in return. I'm just gonna be like, brother, what are you doing? You donated it to me. What are we talking about here? There is a clip out there, autistic students brutal beating up a female teacher because the teacher took away his Switch. I don't care if people are on the spectrum. Actions like that got to equal jail time. I just don't think that's just actual, like, autism whatsoever, or whatever spectrum. I feel like the spectrum has gotten, It's almost like you know how like the word chud or so used to mean something, but then it has lost all meaning and everything because they just repeat it nonstop or so, and it loses its meaning. It's the same thing with the spectrum or so. People say, "I'm part of the spectrum." Oh, I'm part of the spectrum. It almost loses meaning. The spectrum just loses all meaning in general. And it's just kind of like at this point, you're just using it to blanket over your excuse to be a violent person towards somebody, you know? That's what it is. That's what it just generally is at this point. I don't even think at this point it's autism. I think it's just an excuse, a blanket or so to cover up. I think the spectrum needs to be a lot more stricter and needs to be a smaller size because this kind of shit is not autism behavior. Not at all. I don't believe it, to be honest. I really don't. I personally don't think so. For you to get mad and start violently beating somebody up and you want to blame it towards autism because I'm autistic, that's the reason why I crashed out. I don't think so. I don't believe that. I personally, I'm tired of people using mental illness as an excuse for their behavior at this point, you know? At this point, everyone is part of the spectrum. Even if you're not autistic, then you're on the healthy side of the spectrum. It's lost all meaning at this point. Yes, at this point. I personally just don't believe that it's like, oh, I'm autistic. I'm sorry that I beat up the teacher because she took my Switch from me. Even though I shouldn't have my Switch in the classroom, in a place of learning. Even though there's a time and a place for everything. So yeah.
Or to give $16,000 to a streamer, whether it's a donation or a loan, don't do it. If you have to go out and take loans to loan someone money, please don't do that. But if you do find yourself in a situation where you do so and they don't pay you back, I'm sorry. That's on you as well.
Yeah.
You can't go take their life. And the irony of all this is now he's sitting in prison for 16 years because he felt like she owed him $16,000. So now he lost $16,000 and 16 years of his life. But also,
thank God I am normal. I don't have like ADHD or autism or anything. I am a normal individual, okay? All right? I'm like, if there are certain things that I don't like, it doesn't mean I have autism. I just don't find it interesting to me, okay? All right? It's weird. Okay, so one of the things in general, right, when it comes to this conversation is where like there was a video or so where a kid was showing like a class mathematics something, right? And then he was kind of like not paying attention. He wasn't really caring that much. The lesson was really boring in general. But then they put on like the Star Wars movie or some other specific movie. And then he was like super laser focused. He was enjoying the show and everything. And then they say, oh, this kid has autism or something, you know? And it's just kind of like, or ADHD. And I'm like, no, it just means that the kid is bored of the school lesson. He just doesn't want to pay attention. It's like me where when I do editing or so, I'm not really a big fan of editing myself. I know how to do it, but I'm just not a huge fan of it. And sometimes I kind of procrastinate it a little bit because I just don't like doing it. But when it's something that I do enjoy, then of course I'm going to be at it for hours. That doesn't mean you have like autism or ADHD. It just means you just don't like it, you know? There are people who just don't like things in general. That's just how it is, okay? It doesn't mean you have ADHD. It doesn't mean you have autism. It doesn't mean you have this. It doesn't mean you have that, okay? All right? It's just weird in general, you know? There are some people who do have these things and they say, yeah, no, like Nyara, you're correct or so, you know, that's not how ADHD works or that's not how autism works, you know? Like that's the thing in general.
he is so lucky it was only 16 years of his life because in most other countries, that would be a whole lot more. At the time of recording this video, there's no public indication of an appeal being filed by either side. So as of right now, this is where this case rests. But honestly, what's even more worrying is just in the last few years, you've had two separate cases that were very similar. Because in 2025, a Korean streamer passed away and a viewer who had reportedly donated tens of thousands of dollars to her was arrested in connection with this case. And just now, just days before Takano's sentencing, a South Korean stock market YouTuber in his 40s was attacked multiple times in Busan by a man in his 20s who police say had lost money following his advice. And the suspect reportedly tracked a YouTuber down to a commercial building and attacked him.
I'll be honest with you, if you follow financial advice from a YouTuber and you lost money from that, all I have to say is rip bozo, okay? Because that's all on you, man. That is literally all on you. That's all you, bro.
Before fleeing the scene, though he was arrested a couple hours later. Thankfully, this YouTuber did survive, but he did get some serious injuries. So, I mean, overall, this is just a scary time because as, I guess, live streaming and content creation becomes more popular and more people start doing it, now we're seeing more people getting attacked for their content. But looking at all these cases, there is a common thread running through all of them because it seems like these are all viewers.
That's why you
who are
do your own
attacking the
research.
creator, some because of parasocial relationship and others for just following
I hate
stupid financial
parasocial
advice. But these
relationship.
parasocial relationships can easily get really scary for a small number of people because these interactions can gradually become something way bigger in their own minds. So they start expecting something in return, whether that's attention, a friendship, or just a level of personal obligation that simply doesn't exist. And in the case in Japan and South Korea, most likely these men wanted validation, hence why they were giving these women money. But unfortunately, when reality didn't match their expectations, disappointment sometimes might turn into resentment. And in the rarest and most extreme cases, that resentment can clearly become very dangerous. And it's also a concern that platforms have increasingly acknowledged as well. After the series of incidents that happened to Valkyrae, Emaru, Senna, and Amaranth, Twitch said that it was horrified by any kind of harassment or abuse, even when it happens off the platform, adding that its own safety teams were actively looking into the issue. And I guess even though that Takano was ultimately sentenced to 16 years in prison, it also fell well short of what prosecutors had requested. But more importantly, no sentence changes what happened to Sato.
Yo,
and
mama
nothing about
invested
this
to this
verdict
new
brings her
Yaru
back.
point.
And I'm kind of just at a loss for words for what happened. And I just hope nothing like this happens again. But unfortunately, I
No,
don't think
it's
we'll be that
still
lucky.
gonna happen. Unfortunately, this will still be a constant thing in general because you want to know something. There are just some women out there that feed into this. You know, that's the only thing. Japan is very upset with trash taste. I'd be curious to see what that's about. But no, overall, unfortunately, there are women who just feed into this, and sadly enough, they just don't know the actual consequences that they're gonna cause for themselves. You know, it's pretty freaking bad. I'll be honest with you. Like I'm gonna be honest with you. It's pretty generally bad when this happens, and it's just kind of like, yeah, you know, I'm like, you did it on your own. At the end of the day, you decided to feed into this, but hey, that's just you at the end of the day. So I don't know. Personally, for me, it's still kind of wild though. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm like, the problem is, it's like they're taking advantage of these poor guys in general. Like I do feel like very poor for them, you know? It's like it just sucks that they're getting played at by these women who they think they love them, quotation marks love them, but they don't. They're just using them for their money at the end of the day. I'm like, if the girl isn't playing video games at late hours, isn't grinding or so, or isn't like, you know, or like, you know, or whatever other shit in general, like, I'm like, let's be honest with you, you know. Would you really want, you know, would you really want a girl who's like giving you fake love in general, thinking, "Oh, thank you for the donation." It's like, "Oh, I love you so much." You know, it's not just people feed into it. It's also the fandom in the Eastern side. The entitlement is disgusting in my opinion. People can't lead a normal life because once they find out you're dating someone, the fandom will crash out. But the problem is, you know, who feeds into it though? It's the streamer that feeds into that specific thing. They're the ones who push it. They come into a channel already mentally ill to some degree. The streamer feeds it just like how a guy feeds a fat woman and increases it far more and it becomes a dangerous thing, you know? That's the thing. Like like at the end of the day, it's usually some of the women. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna have to blame. Sorry, my misogynistic is coming out. I'm just gonna have to blame some of the women in general for feeding into this shit. Okay. All right, that's just how it is. They have the power to stop this, but they don't stop it. Okay. Let me remind you, the streamer has the power. Okay. Nah, because it's also the business. Look at the K-pop. I bet. Well, we're talking about streamers. We're not talking about K-pop. That's a separate topic. We're talking about streamers in general. The power of Grayskull, greed. Yeah, I'm like, once they get that hit or so, because the best example, right? Finster, right? The famous femboy, right? A person comes in, donates money to them. The streamer doesn't stop them. They keep feeding into that specific streamer. I mean, into that specific dono person, right? And then the dono person fucking feeds more to the streamer. So, but then the streamer keeps pushing it to, instead of putting a stop to it. And it just got to where we're at right now with Finster. So the streamer bend the will of a certain person who had very deep pockets at the end of the day. Sometimes their viewers are supportive, like the Nimi announced she was getting married. She's not only didn't lose viewers, her community was really supportive. Imagine having a community like that. But yeah, like I said, I'm not talking about like K-pop people. I'm just or that side in general. That's a different topic in general. We're talking about the streamers themselves and the responsibility that streamers hold when a viewer comes into their community or a new person comes in. My opinion is all related because fandoms over there is crazy. They all act the same, and no matter if you're a VTuber or a celeb. I feel like celebrities and internet people are completely different in my personal opinion. And then even then on top of that, the streamer is responsible of like to not feed into their parasocialness. Okay? Why do you think we have no parasocial people in here, Dubstep? Because I don't feed into it. Okay? I don't feed into this parasocial thing. That is something that is super dangerous to be messing with. Look what happened to Mike Neko when she was feeding into the whole parasocial thing, okay? When she was Rushia. I'm like, her fucking fan bases were crashing the shit out in the Discord because she kept feeding into it. For God's sakes, she gave up, like, if I remember correctly in Hololive, she gave out wedding rings or something like that to be theirs, okay? All right? That's what I'm saying. The streamer needs to be like, okay, we're not going to accept 16K donation, okay? All right? At the end of the day, if you're going to donate to me, all I have to say is like, you donate because you want to support, okay? But if you donate a certain amount or so, I'm just going to be like, number one, I'm probably going to look at you very concernedly with an eyebrow raising kind of way. And I'm just going to be like, and I'm just gonna play that meme, that specific meme or so. You just got robbed or so, and that's basically it. that is how I'm going to say it personally, but that's just me anyways. Pero me gustaban sus gutareles más que nada. Gutareles, yo no sé qué es eso. Yo era parte de los figureros de Rusia. Oh, tú estabas la parte de la fanbase de ella. Pero la problema es gritos. Oh, de lo que estaban llorando, chillando y todo eso. Sí, pero el problema es, esos gentes están locos. Eso no están bien bueno en la cabeza. Eso no es una buena cosa para, como decir, feed into their parasocialness. But yeah. That's my personal opinion. That's what I think about it. This is really horrible what happened or so of last year. I do remember, what happened of this in general when she lost her life or so, but she got stabbed more than 50 times, which is really crazy. And then the guy is saying, oh, I just wanted to fuck up her face. I didn't mean to kill her. That's just weird psychopathic behavior in my personal opinion, but hey, that's just me anyways. What a weird world that I am living in right now, where the autism scale basically shields you from accountability in general, but hey, that's just me, because we all know for a fact that a good majority of them, the people who are actual autistic and who have actual ADHD, do not act out like this. The people who do act out like this use that as an excuse for them to commit the atrocities that they're committing in general. So you're saying you already have enough money from our moms? Yes, because I was doing this all night long to them. In my opinion, you shouldn't have to tell people to not go crazy with the donuts. People should have financial responsibility, or if they don't get what they want, like buy, love, or with the dude leaning in on the cross dressing, it should be an L on them. Well, you expect that from common sense people, but remember, there's a YouTube channel named Caleb Hammer where he just rips people apart because of their financial decision. Let me just remind you, there are certain people who have way too much money on their hands than what they can do with it, you know? And they just mismanage their own money, okay? All right? That's all I got to say about that. There are people who don't have money, who are literally on a more tighter budget, and they don't mismanage their money. But the people who have it the easy way in life, who have a ton of money, are the people who always mismanage the money the most. It's called common sense. There's a difference between life in general. People basically who lived on hard mode and people who lived on easy mode, because they were never taught when they were younger of the value of $1. Well, actually, the value of a quarter, I should say. Sorry, I come from an era where a quarter where you can get a ton of stuff or so, but that's it. But anyways, that's the end of the video. And honestly, this is why I do not go into the parasocial thing, okay? I do not fuel it. I do not do anything of that sort of nature. You donate if you want to donate. You can support me if you want to support me. Watching my videos is basically the best thing you can do in general to support me overall. And that's basically it. So anyways, that's the end of the video. And peace.